The vast and unfamiliar planet was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Its landscapes were wild and untamed, covered in dense forests, towering mountains, and sprawling plains where creatures far larger than any alien they knew roamed freely. The air was thick with the scents of these mysterious beasts, and the sky shimmered with strange, foreign colors. The aliens had arrived, their ships landing in the middle of this strange world, ready to explore and conquer. But they hadn't expected what they were about to witness. As they stepped out of their ships, the first thing they saw was a group of humans, small and fragile, compared to the massive beasts around them. But what made the scene even more baffling was that these humans were not hiding, running, or cowering. They were walking among the creatures with an ease and calmness that completely defied the aliens' understanding. They could see humans casually moving alongside beasts that should have torn them apart. Huge creatures, with claws sharp enough to rip through metal and jaws that could crush bones in a single snap, stood still as the humans walked past them. One of the aliens, their leader, watched with narrowed eyes, trying to comprehend what they were seeing. "How can this be?" the leader muttered to themselves. The humans didn't seem afraid at all. They didn't scream, didn't run, didn't even flinch as these deadly animals stood within arm's reach. The leader took a step forward, squinting at a particularly large armored beast that towered over the humans. It was a creature that could flatten anything in its path, with skin like stone and eyes that burned with a fiery intensity. Yet, the humans walked beside it as if it were a common pet. The leader turned to their second-in-command, clearly perplexed. These humans, they tame beasts that should be their doom. The second-in-command nodded slowly, still unable to process the sight. "It doesn't make sense. Our species has never seen anything like this. These creatures are monsters, and yet, the humans, they seem to control them." As they spoke, a human woman walked forward, her steps measured and calm. The alien leader watched intently as she approached a creature that looked like a mix between a wolf and a panther, its fur a deep shade of midnight black. The beast stood on all fours, but its muscles rippled under its fur, and its eyes glowed an eerie yellow. It hissed as the human approached, its teeth bared in a warning growl. The leader braced for a violent attack, expecting the human to be ripped apart at any moment. But the woman simply stopped in front of the beast, kneeling down to meet its gaze. The creature growled louder, but the woman remained motionless, her eyes locked with the animal's. To the alien leader's surprise, the beast did not attack. Instead, its growling quieted, its massive body relaxing. The woman reached out slowly, placing her hand gently on the creature's head. The beast blinked, its muscles unwinding, as if it were suddenly soothed by the human's touch. The aliens could hardly believe their eyes. How was this possible? The alien leader moved forward cautiously, trying to make sense of what was happening. "What is this?" they whispered. The human woman had now stood, her hand still resting on the beast's head, and the creature had lowered itself onto the ground, as if bowing to her. The leader had to admit, this was not something they could easily explain. Another human, a man this time, stepped up beside the leader, noticing the alien's confusion. "It's all about understanding them," the human said simply. "We don't dominate them. We communicate. We understand their nature, their instincts, and we respect them. That's how we live alongside them. You don't control them with force. You control them with trust." The alien leader frowned, still skeptical. "Trust," they repeated incredulously. "You're telling me that these beasts, these monsters, can be trusted?" The human nodded. "We've lived with them for generations. It's not about fear. It's about learning to coexist. You're right. These beasts should kill us, but we've learned to respect them, and they've learned to trust us. It's a bond, not a fight." The leader couldn't believe what they were hearing. How could a species as fragile as humans live in such harmony with creatures that were designed for destruction? The aliens had traveled to countless planets, fought wars against many different species, and faced dangers beyond imagination. But they had never encountered anything like this. The humans had no weapons, no technology to make the beasts obey. They didn't even seem to be using any sort of mind control or advanced tactics. They simply understood the animals. It was as if the humans shared an unspoken connection with the beasts. As the humans spoke, the alien leader looked around. There were dozens of these creatures scattered across the land, each one more terrifying than the next. A herd of giant, lizard-like creatures with razor-sharp tails moved through the tall grass, while overhead, huge birds with wingspans wider than a house soared through the air. The humans were everywhere, walking alongside these creatures as if they were nothing more than pets, and the beasts didn't seem to mind. In fact, they seemed to trust the humans, even protect them. The alien leader was still struggling to comprehend it all. "But how do you survive?" they asked. "How do you not become their prey? How do you control such wild creatures?" The humans smiled slightly, a knowing look in their eyes. "We don't control them, we live with them. There's a difference. These creatures, they're not just mindless beasts. They have their own instincts, their own needs. And when we understand them, when we take the time to learn, they respect us in return. It's not about dominance. It's about partnership." The alien leader stood still, staring at the human, unable to find the words to respond. The thought of creating such a partnership with something so powerful, so dangerous, was beyond anything the aliens had ever considered. To the aliens, power was about control, about having the upper hand. It was about being the strongest, the smartest, the most advanced. But these humans, they didn't seem interested in any of that. They didn't want to dominate these creatures. They simply wanted to coexist. The leader's thoughts were interrupted as a loud roar echoed through the trees. The humans looked up in alarm, and the alien leader turned to see a massive creature charging toward them. It was a towering four-legged beast with tusks longer than any human was tall, and it was running full speed toward a group of humans standing nearby. The alien leader watched, horrified, expecting a bloodbath. But to their surprise, the humans didn't panic. They didn't flee. Instead, one of the humans stepped forward, holding out their hands to calm the beast. The creature skidded to a halt just before the human, its massive feet kicking up dirt as it came to an unexpected stop. The human reached out, gently touching the beast's snout, and the beast lowered its head, its dangerous tusks now just inches from the human's body. It snorted, but did not attack. The alien leader's heart raced as they realized what they were witnessing. This was no ordinary human. These creatures, these monsters, had no reason to trust anything or anyone. And yet here they were, bowing to the will of these fragile humans. The alien leader could not deny it any longer. These humans were unlike anything they had ever encountered. They weren't stronger, faster, or more technologically advanced. But somehow they had managed to tame the wildest, most dangerous beasts in the galaxy. And as the alien leader stood in awe, watching the humans calmly interact with the creatures that should have been their death, they realized that they were witnessing something far more powerful than they had ever imagined. It wasn't the power of technology or force. It was the power of understanding, empathy, and trust. Something the aliens had never truly known. The human nodded. "We've lived with them for generations. It's not about fear. It's about learning to coexist. You're right. These beasts should kill us, but we've learned to respect them, and they've learned to trust us. It's a bond, not a fight." The leader couldn't believe what they were hearing. How could a species as fragile as humans live in such harmony with creatures that were designed for destruction? The aliens had traveled to countless planets, fought wars against many different species, and faced dangers beyond imagination. But they had never encountered anything like this. The humans had no weapons, no technology to make the beasts obey. They didn't even seem to be using any sort of mind control or advanced tactics. They simply understood the animals. It was as if the humans shared an unspoken connection with the beasts. As the human spoke, the alien leader looked around. There were dozens of these creatures scattered across the land, each one more terrifying than the next. A herd of giant, lizard-like creatures with razor-sharp tails moved through the tall grass, while overhead, huge birds with wingspans wider than a house soared through the air. The humans were everywhere, walking alongside these creatures as if they were nothing more than pets, and the beasts didn't seem to mind. In fact, they seemed to trust the humans, even protect them. The alien leader was still struggling to comprehend it all. "But how do you survive?" they asked. "How do you not become their prey? How do you control such wild creatures?" The humans smiled slightly, a knowing look in their eyes. "We don't control them. We live with them. There's a difference. These creatures, they're not just mindless beasts. They have their own instincts, their own needs, and when we understand them, when we take the time to learn, they respect us in return. It's not about dominance. It's about partnership." The alien leader stood still, staring at the human, unable to find the words to respond. The thought of creating such a partnership with something so powerful, so dangerous, was beyond anything the aliens had ever considered. To the aliens, power was about control, about having the upper hand. It was about being the strongest, the smartest, the most advanced. But these humans, they didn't seem interested in any of that. They didn't want to dominate these creatures. They simply wanted to coexist. The leader's thoughts were interrupted as a loud roar echoed through the trees. The humans looked up in alarm, and the alien leader turned to see a massive creature charging toward them. It was a towering, four-legged beast with tusks longer than any human was tall, and it was running full speed toward a group of humans standing nearby. The alien leader watched, horrified, expecting a bloodbath. But to their surprise, the humans didn't panic. They didn't flee. Instead, one of the humans stepped forward, holding out their hands to calm the beast. The creature skidded to a halt just before the human, its massive feet kicking up dirt as it came to an unexpected stop. The human reached out, gently touching the beast's snout, and the beast lowered its head, its dangerous tusks now just inches from the human's body. It snorted, but did not attack. The alien leader's heart raced as they realized what they were witnessing. This was no ordinary human. These creatures, these monsters, had no reason to trust anything or anyone. And yet, here they were, bowing to the will of these fragile humans. The alien leader could not deny it any longer. These humans were unlike anything they had ever encountered. They weren't stronger, faster, or more technologically advanced. But somehow, they had managed to tame the wildest, most dangerous beasts in the galaxy. And as the alien leader stood in awe, watching the humans calmly interact with the creatures that should have been their death, they realized that they were witnessing something far more powerful than they had ever imagined. It wasn't the power of technology or force. It was that the aliens were still reeling from the unbelievable sight they had witnessed. Their leader stood there, gazing at the scene before them, struggling to comprehend what had just happened. The massive beast that had been charging toward the humans had, against all expectations, stopped just inches from the human's outstretched hand. The creature, which should have been nothing more than a deadly force of nature, had bent its will to the human's presence. The leader could see no weapons, no tricks, just the quiet, firm confidence of the humans and the strange bond they shared with the creatures. The human who had stepped forward to calm the beast now moved away from it, giving a soft nod as the giant creature ambled back into the wild. The alien leader couldn't take their eyes off the humans. They had never seen anything like this in all their travels through the galaxy. They had visited countless worlds, encountered countless species, each more powerful or technologically advanced than the last. But these humans were different. "We need to understand this," the alien leader said, turning to their second in command. "What exactly is it that makes them so special? They are not like us. They don't dominate. They don't conquer. They simply coexist." The leader's voice was tinged with both awe and confusion. The second in command nodded thoughtfully. I see it now. But how? How is this possible? How can these creatures, these beasts, allow humans to walk freely among them without fear of attack? We must find out, the leader insisted. We need to learn everything about them. How do they do it? How do they tame such wild creatures? And how did they come to be this way? The leader's thoughts were interrupted when one of the humans approached them. It was the woman who had calmed the black panther-like beast earlier. She walked with a calm grace, her eyes fixed firmly on the alien leader. Would you like to understand? She asked, her voice kind and unthreatening, but filled with quiet strength. The alien leader hesitated. There was something compelling about her presence, something magnetic. Yes, the leader replied, the curiosity in their tone unmistakable. We need to understand. The woman smiled slightly and then began to speak, her voice steady as she explained. It's not about force. It's never been about force. It's about listening, about understanding what the beasts need. Every creature has its own fears, its own instincts. We've learned to listen to them, to connect with them in ways that no one else has tried. The leader felt a knot of confusion twist tighter inside them. But these creatures, they are wild, dangerous. Surely there must be some kind of power at play, some technology or ability that we do not see. How can you, so small and fragile, possibly command such fearsome beasts? The woman shook her head slowly, her gaze never wavering. No power, no technology, just understanding. When you listen to the animals, they begin to trust you. It's a bond. It takes time, patience, and respect. The beasts here are not mindless killers. They have their own ways of thinking, their own feelings. And when you learn to understand them, when you stop fighting them, they stop fighting you. The alien leader's mind raced. This was incomprehensible to them. Their entire civilization was built on the notion of control. Power meant victory, and victory meant dominance. The idea that a species could survive without overwhelming strength or technology was completely foreign to them. And yet, here were these humans, calmly living alongside creatures that should have destroyed them, without weapons or force. The leader looked over at the humans who were now scattered across the wilderness, walking with the beasts, talking to them, and even playing with them. They could see no fear in the humans' eyes. Instead, there was a quiet confidence that the aliens had never seen before. The leader noticed a young girl, no older than 10 or 12, standing near a massive winged predator. The creature was huge, with glowing eyes and sharp talons, but it was lying on the ground, its head resting on the girl's lap as she stroked its feathers. The alien leader's heart skipped a beat. How could this be? A feeling of unease spread through the alien leader's chest. The humans weren't just surviving here. They were thriving. They were not bending to the power of these beasts. They were working with them. It was a concept the aliens could not understand. On their home planet, survival meant constant vigilance, fighting for resources, and defeating any threat that stood in their way. Here, however, the humans didn't seem to be concerned with dominance. They simply worked together with the creatures of the land, creating a balance the aliens had never even dreamed of. The alien leader turned back to the human woman, who was still patiently waiting for them to absorb her words. How did you come to learn this? The leader asked, voice full of genuine curiosity. The woman thought for a moment, her eyes softening with a faraway look. It wasn't easy at first. The beasts didn't trust us, and we didn't trust them either. But over time, we realized that we needed each other. We needed the creatures to survive, and they needed us. We had to change the way we thought. We had to stop seeing the beasts as threats and start seeing them as partners. The alien leader was stunned. This was a perspective completely foreign to them. For their species, every other form of life was either a tool to be used or a threat to be eliminated. They had never once thought of forming partnerships with other creatures, especially ones as dangerous as the ones the humans coexisted with. The idea of mutual respect, of coexistence instead of domination, was too radical, too strange to be immediately accepted. But how do you know they won't turn on you? The alien leader asked. What if one of them decides to attack? What if your understanding fails? The woman smiled again, a gentle but knowing smile. It's not about certainty. There's always risk, but we trust in the bond we've built. And when things go wrong, we don't fight back with force. We step back, listen, and learn. We try to understand why the creature is acting the way it is. Most of the time, it's fear. And once you understand fear, you can help them face it. The alien leader's mind was in turmoil. Everything they thought they knew about power, survival, and control was being challenged. What the humans had was something completely different from what the aliens had ever experienced. It wasn't about strength, technology, or even intelligence. It was about something far deeper, something the aliens had never even considered. As the leader stood there, the distant sound of a predator's roar echoed through the trees. But this time, the humans didn't flinch. They didn't run. They simply moved toward the sound, calmly and purposefully. The alien leader felt a strange feeling begin to stir inside them. It wasn't fear. It was awe. And as they watched the humans walk toward the unknown, the leader realized they were witnessing something extraordinary, a new way of living, of surviving, and of thriving in a world that had once seemed ruled by violence and fear. The aliens had come to conquer, but they were learning, perhaps too late, that true power didn't lie in domination. It lay in something far more subtle, the power of understanding, empathy, and trust, something the aliens had never truly known. The alien leader was lost in thought, their mind racing. The realization was slowly dawning on them. These humans, so different from any species they had encountered, possessed something the aliens could never have imagined: the power of connection. It wasn't through weapons, technology, or sheer force that the humans controlled the beasts of this world. It was through empathy, patience, and understanding. The leader turned to their second-in-command, who had been watching the scene unfold in stunned silence. "I don't understand," the leader said, their voice heavy with disbelief. "How could something as simple as trust allow them to live like this? It doesn't make sense. We are the dominant species wherever we go. We control everything we encounter. How can these fragile beings live so closely with creatures so dangerous?" The second-in-command paused, eyes narrowed in thought. "I don't know, but it's clear that these humans are not like us. They don't think like us. They don't see the world the way we do. They don't believe in controlling their environment or the creatures within it. Instead, they live in harmony with it. They've learned to coexist." The alien leader remained silent, staring out at the scene unfolding before them. Humans walking alongside creatures that should have been their killers. The beasts, once feared and regarded as symbols of death, were now nothing more than companions to the humans. The way the creatures interacted with the humans, following them, even resting next to them, was beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. The more the leader watched, the more they began to realize that there was a profound truth here, a truth that contradicted everything their species had believed for millennia. The truth was that the humans didn't just tame the beasts, they understood them, and in return, the beasts began to trust them. The leader had witnessed something the aliens had never imagined possible. They had seen a human woman walk up to a terrifying creature, a towering beast with claws long enough to shred through metal, and simply calm it with a gentle touch. They had seen humans not only survive in the presence of these monsters but thrive. They had seen humans and beasts together in a way that defied logic and reason. For the aliens, this was incomprehensible. Everything they had been taught, everything their species had built their empire upon, seemed irrelevant in this strange new world. Power, control, and strength had always been their guiding principles. But here, the humans were demonstrating something else, something far more subtle, far more complex. The alien leader turned back to the human woman, who was still standing nearby, watching them. She had a calm expression, as though she knew exactly what the leader was thinking. She approached them again, this time with a different look in her eyes, one of quiet assurance. "Do you want to see more?" she asked. The leader blinked in surprise. More? They didn't know what else there could be to see. They had already witnessed what seemed impossible. What could be left to understand? The woman nodded. "We've only shown you a small part of how we live with the beasts. There's more to it, more that you need to understand if you truly want to see the bond we share with them." The alien leader considered her words. "And what exactly do you want us to see?" They asked cautiously. They weren't sure if they were ready for more revelations, more truths that would shake their worldview even further. She smiled softly, her gaze distant as if recalling memories of a life far from the alien's own. "I want you to understand that the bond between us and the creatures here is built on patience. It's not something that can be forged overnight. It takes years, generations even, of living alongside them, learning their language, understanding their fears and desires. But over time, they begin to understand us too. It's not just us who learn from them. It's also the beasts who learn from us." The alien leader was silent, struggling to wrap their mind around what the human woman was saying. You've lived with these creatures for generations." "Yes," she replied, her voice full of quiet pride. "Our ancestors came here long before we did, and they learned to live with the creatures. Over time, the bond grew stronger, but it wasn't always easy. At first, many of us were afraid. Many of us didn't understand how to communicate with the beasts. But as we learned, as we took the time to understand them, we realized they weren't just wild animals. They were beings with their own needs, their own fears. And once we understood that, we could work together." The alien leader thought about her words. There was something in the way she spoke, a quiet strength that made the leader feel small in comparison. The idea that these humans had not conquered these creatures, but rather had built a relationship with them over time, was difficult to grasp. The leader had never thought of animals as anything but tools or obstacles. For the first time, the alien leader began to see the world through a different lens, one where relationships weren't about domination, but about mutual respect. "I don't understand how you could live like this," the alien leader said, shaking their head slowly. "In our world, power is everything. It's how we survive. How do you manage without it?" The human woman didn't hesitate. "Because we've learned that power isn't the only way to survive. We've learned that strength isn't about who can crush the other first. It's about who can understand, who can adapt. We don't need power over the beasts, because we've learned to work with them." The leader stood there, speechless, trying to absorb everything they had just heard. Their species had been raised to believe that only the strongest could rule. But the humans, they had found a different way. A way that didn't rely on strength, but on connection. The leader felt something stir inside them, something they had never felt before. It was not fear, not the sharp defensive sensation they usually experienced in the face of the unknown. This was something else. It was awe, respect, and a bit of envy. The second in command stepped forward, speaking softly. "I can't believe it. How could they have done this? How could they have tamed such dangerous beasts without the weapons or technology we rely on?" The woman smiled at the second in command, her expression full of understanding. "We didn't tame them. We earned their trust, and they earned ours. That's what you're missing. Power alone doesn't control the world. Relationships do." The alien leader felt a weight settle on their shoulders. It wasn't just the weight of understanding. It was the weight of realization. Their species had spent centuries conquering worlds, defeating enemies, building empires. But in all that time, they had never once thought to build relationships. They had never once thought to coexist. They had only known power. And now, standing on this strange, beautiful planet, the leader realized how hollow that power had been. For the first time, they felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps there was another way. A better way. Maybe the humans had found the answer that the aliens had been searching for all along. The leader turned back to the human woman. "Teach us," they said quietly. "Teach us how to understand." The woman smiled, her eyes bright with quiet pride. "It's not something we can teach in one day, but I'll show you what I can. It's a journey, one that takes time, but I'll help you take the first step." And so, the alien leader stood there, feeling the shift in the air, the beginning of a new understanding, a new path. It wasn't the path of domination, but of coexistence, and for the first time in their lives, the alien leader felt that they might just be ready to walk it. The days that followed were filled with quiet contemplation. The alien leader's mind was still grappling with the enormity of what they had learned. They had always believed that the key to survival and dominance lay in strength and control. But now, here they were, in the presence of these humans, creatures who had tamed the wildest beasts through patience, understanding, and empathy. They had seen it with their own eyes, witnessed the undeniable bond between the humans and the animals of this planet. The leader felt a mix of awe, confusion, and a quiet yearning. Could this be the answer they had been looking for? A way to survive, not through power, but through something far more elusive: connection. The human woman, who had become their guide, continued to show them the ways of her people. She led them through forests, across rivers, and into the vast plains where the creatures roamed. With each step, the alien leader's perception shifted. What had once seemed like chaos, wild animals running free, began to reveal itself as a delicate, balanced system. The humans didn't just live with the creatures, they were a part of the natural order. There was no fear in the humans' eyes, no hesitation when they approached the beasts. Instead, there was something else, a deep, unspoken communication that transcended language. The leader could see it now. It wasn't just about controlling the beasts. It was about becoming part of the same rhythm, the same flow. As the alien leader spent more time with the humans, they started to notice the subtle differences in how the humans interacted with the world around them. In every action, there was an underlying respect for all life. The leader had seen the humans carefully tending to their crops, speaking to the animals with a gentleness that made their hearts stir. They did not just take what they needed. They gave something back. They nurtured, they cared, and in return, the creatures trusted them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft golden glow over the land, the human woman took the leader to the edge of a forest. The air was thick with the scent of earth, and the distant calls of the creatures echoed through the trees. The leader could feel the tension in the air, a quiet pulse of life all around them. "There's something you need to understand," the woman said, her voice steady. "We don't just tame the creatures. We live with them. We share this world with them, and they share it with us. We're all part of the same web. If one part of the web breaks, the whole thing suffers. That's why we don't just take. We give too." The alien leader looked out over the forest, taking in the sounds and smells of the life around them. The vast expanse of the wilderness stretched out in every direction, but instead of feeling threatened by it, the leader felt a sense of calm. The creatures, some of them terrifying in their size and strength, moved through the forest like shadows, each one coexisting peacefully with the others. The woman's words echoed in the leader's mind. "We don't just take. We give too." For the first time, the alien leader began to see the truth in those words. In their own world, their species had always taken. They had taken resources, land, power, and even the lives of others. But they had never given anything back. They had never understood the balance of life, the delicate relationship between all living things. They had only known conquest. But now, as they stood on this planet, watching the humans and the creatures live side by side, the leader felt a shift inside them. It was as if something deep within their soul had been awakened. They had come to conquer, to dominate, to add another world to their empire. But now, they saw that there was a different way. A way that didn't require strength, but understanding. A way that didn't rely on taking, but on giving. "Teach us," the alien leader said again, their voice quieter this time, more certain. "Show us how to live like you do. Show us how to understand the creatures, how to give instead of take." The woman turned to face them, her eyes soft with understanding. She had seen the leaders change, the subtle shift in their posture, the way they now walked with a lighter step, no longer weighed down by the burden of dominance. She smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. "It's not something you can learn overnight," she said. "It's a lifetime of understanding. But I can show you the first step. I can show you how to listen." And so they began again. The woman led the alien leader deeper into the forest, where a pack of creatures known for their fierce temperament roamed. The leader had seen them from a distance before, massive beasts with long, sharp tusks and powerful jaws. They were the kind of creatures that the aliens had once feared. But now, standing before them, the leader didn't feel the usual surge of fear or the instinct to dominate. Instead, they felt a strange sense of calm. The human woman kneeled down, her eyes soft, her voice quiet. She whispered to the creatures, speaking in a language the leader could not understand, but somehow, the words felt like music, rhythmic, soothing. And then something incredible happened. The beasts, who had once been snarling and aggressive, lowered their heads. Slowly, cautiously, they stepped forward, their massive bodies moving with an elegance the leader hadn't expected. They were not attacking. They were listening. The leader watched in disbelief as the creatures, once terrifying, now moved with the humans as if they were equals. It was a moment of profound realization. The leader understood now. This wasn't about power. It wasn't about fear or dominance. It was about connection, about creating a bond that transcended fear, a bond built on trust and respect. For the first time, the alien leader felt something they had never felt before. It wasn't just respect for the humans. It was a longing to learn from them, to understand this way of life that had eluded their species for so long. It wasn't about conquering. It was about living in harmony with the world around them. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the forest, the alien leader turned to the human woman. "I see now," they said, their voice thick with emotion. "I see what we've been missing. We've spent so much time trying to take, to control, to dominate. But we've never thought about giving, about understanding. We've never thought about the balance." The woman nodded, her expression serene. "It's not about conquering, it's about coexisting. We don't own the beasts. We don't control them. We live with them, and in return, they live with us." The alien leader stood silently, gazing out at the creatures in the forest, their eyes now full of understanding. They had come to conquer, to impose their will upon this world. But now, they were beginning to see that true power didn't lie in domination. It lay in connection. And with that, the alien leader knew that they had been forever changed. They had come to this world expecting to take something from it. But in the end, they had gained something far more valuable: wisdom, understanding, and the beginnings of a new way of life. A life built not on domination, but on coexistence. And perhaps, just perhaps, this was the beginning of something far greater than they had ever imagined. The days turned into weeks, and the alien leader's transformation became undeniable. It was no longer just about understanding the humans or their relationship with the beasts. It was about a fundamental shift in perspective, a complete change in how the leader saw the universe. The once unshakable belief in domination had given way to an appreciation for cooperation, for the delicate balance that held all things together. The leader's interactions with the humans, with the beasts, and even with the environment around them, were now infused with a sense of respect and humility. The alien leader began to adopt some of the practices the humans had shown them. They spent time sitting quietly, learning to listen to the world around them. The trees, the rivers, the rustling of the wind in the grass, all of it held meaning now, a language the leader had once overlooked. They had come to understand that life wasn't just a series of events to be controlled and manipulated. It was a web of connections where every thread mattered, where every life had value. One day, the human woman took the leader to the heart of the forest, a place where the land was thick with life. The trees towered overhead, their roots twisting deep into the earth. The air was rich with the scent of moss and wildflowers. It was here, in this ancient grove, that the leader felt a profound connection to the world. They had never felt this kind of peace before, not in their homeworld, not in any of the battles they had fought or victories they had won. Here, in the stillness of nature, the leader felt something stir deep inside them. It was a sense of belonging. The woman motioned to a large creature that stepped from the shadows of the trees. It was a magnificent beast, its fur a rich golden hue, and its eyes shone with intelligence. The leader had seen this creature before, once from a distance, but never up close. The woman approached the creature slowly, speaking in the soft, melodic tone that the leader had now come to recognize as the language of the humans and the beasts. The creature, instead of backing away, stepped forward, lowering its head in a gesture of trust. "Can I show you something?" the woman asked, her eyes meeting the leader's. The leader nodded, a sense of anticipation rising within them. The woman extended her hand toward the creature, gently stroking its massive, fur-covered neck. The creature closed its eyes, leaning into the touch. It was a peaceful moment, a quiet connection between two beings. The leader was struck by the simplicity of it, the way the human and the beast shared this moment of understanding. There was no need for words, no need for force. The bond was something deeper, something that transcended everything the leader had known. "This," the woman said quietly, "is what I want you to understand. This is the connection we share. It's not about conquering the creatures or making them submit to us. It's about seeing them, truly seeing them, and learning to live together." The alien leader's heart clenched with a mixture of emotions, wonder, admiration, and a deep, aching desire to learn. They had come to this world expecting to conquer, to control. But instead, they had found something far more valuable, a lesson in humility, in respect, and in connection. The leader stepped forward, hesitating for only a moment before reaching out to touch the creature. At first, the animal flinched, but the woman's calm presence seemed to ease its tension. Slowly, the leader's hand made contact with the creature's fur, and in that instant, everything changed. The leader felt a warmth radiate through them, a profound sense of peace that they had never experienced before. It was as if the creature, in its own way, was accepting the leader as part of the world, as part of the web of life that bound everything together. The leader looked at the woman, their eyes wide with realization. I feel it," they said, their voice hushed. "I feel the connection. It's real." The woman smiled, her expression gentle. "It's always been real. You just had to learn how to see it." In that moment, the alien leader understood something that had eluded them for their entire life. The true strength of life didn't come from control or dominance. It came from understanding, from empathy, from the ability to form connections that transcended fear and power. The leader had spent so many years building an empire, taking what they wanted, and imposing their will on others. But in this quiet forest, surrounded by creatures that had once been seen as enemies, the leader realized that there was another way to live, one that was based on balance, respect, and coexistence. For the first time, the leader looked at the world through new eyes. They no longer saw the beasts as threats to be tamed or conquered. They saw them as fellow beings, deserving of respect and understanding. And the humans, who had taught them this lesson, no longer seemed like strange, inferior creatures. They were wise, they were strong in their own way, and they held the key to something far greater than anything the leader had ever imagined. The leader turned to the woman, their voice filled with a newfound reverence. "You've shown me something that I can never repay. I came here to conquer, to claim this world for my people. But now, I see that my people have been lost in their pursuit of power. We've ignored the most important thing of all, the connections that bind us to the world, to the creatures, and to each other." The woman placed a hand on the leader's shoulder, her smile soft but firm. "It's not too late. You can still change. It will take time, and it won't be easy, but you can learn to live in balance. You can teach your people what you've learned here, and together, you can create a world where everyone, humans, beasts, and all living things, can coexist. The leader nodded, their heart heavy with both sorrow and hope. They knew the road ahead would be difficult. Changing the mindset of an entire species was no small feat. But for the first time, the leader felt a sense of purpose that was greater than any conquest or victory they had ever achieved. The true battle wasn't for control. It was for understanding, for coexistence, and for the chance to build something better. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting a warm golden light across the land, the alien leaders stood in silence, the weight of their newfound wisdom settling into their bones. The journey they had started had taken an unexpected turn, and now they faced a future that was uncertain, but filled with potential. The leader turned to the human woman, their eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," they said, their voice thick with emotion. "I will never forget what you've shown me. I will carry this lesson with me, and I will share it with my people." The woman nodded, her expression resolute. "It's up to you now. The world will change, but only if you choose to change it." And with that, the alien leader turned toward the horizon, ready to begin a new journey. A journey not of conquest, but of understanding. A journey that would take them back to their people, to teach them the most important lesson of all. That true power doesn't come from domination. It comes from connection. And with that, the alien leader knew that the future, though uncertain, held the possibility of something beautiful. A world where all life could coexist in harmony.